And it is September 24th. I need to adjust this down too much. September 24th, 2020 to 10:52 a.m. in the morning. Normally, like yesterday on my radio broadcast, I put down in the PM, 1:30 in the PM. That reminded me of the late friend Michael Smotherman that died here late last year, I guess it was. It's late last year. Mike and I went way back. We had known each other for a long time. I mean, since we were teenagers. And he went on to be a really, really successful songwriter and singer. And what I talked about on the podcast is that he had a little series of short stories he wrote on Facebook, and I absolutely regret not recording those. I should have just took a screenshot and put them in my computer. I had no idea my good longtime friend would die of a heart attack, but it was no surprise. He lived a long, hard life. Has 4 beautiful daughters. I'm friends with one of them, and 2 ex-wives, and I'm friends with both of them. Friends with his girlfriend he had before he died. He was just a great guy, but he did a series on Facebook called Love and Lust at 2:30 p.m. in the afternoon, and that was the title of them. And he'd do different chapters. It'd always come back to the lead character being a former cop but was now a gumshoe and all the troubles he was having. And it was hilarious. The man had a ribald, outrageous sense of humor. He claimed to be a womanizer. Nothing of the sort. My wife can attest to the fact Mike was a complete, total gentleman. I've had conservative friends tell me he was a liberal idiot. Let me tell you something about Michael Wayne Smotherman. He was anything but an idiot. One of the smartest men I ever knew. He just didn't tolerate idiots or fools. It didn't matter what political party they were. But anyway, that's going way off in left field. I have gotten some hate mail recently. Let me think how to phrase this without using profanity. I got a message, and this is off of my podcast, not off what I'm doing right now. I give a really harsh opinion on things on my podcast. It is just my opinion, nobody else's. Basically got called out for being an egomaniacal individual, which I do have a bad ego. I've accomplished a lot in my life, but I can honestly say now that's not what runs my life. The main thing I'm concerned about or concentrating on these days is my family and their welfare, and my friends and their welfare. Having a battle of wits with me is not a good thing, just like a gunfight with me is not a good thing. There is nothing wrong with my mind. It still works really well, and I will not tolerate idiots. You know, I mean, this individual was a friend of mine on Facebook, and then he blocked me. He cut me off, unfriended me, and blocked me. That's fine. I turned around, and I guess when you block someone, you can't even find mention of their name. And I have blocked a few individuals, not in the last couple of years or so. Well, yeah, I did. I blocked a couple of guys. But the problem is he took his shot and then didn't give me a chance to respond. That is the act of a coward. Would I have responded? Probably not. It's not worth the effort. And I get upset like everyone else. I do. Nobody likes to be told they're a fool. Nobody likes to be scolded. Everything the dude said was unjustified. Same argument a couple other guys made. I don't know the people I say I know. I do. Absolutely, I know them. I'm kind of like Bubba in the joke where Bubba's standing on the balcony at St. Peter's Basilica in Rome. The Pope comes out and one Japanese tourist turns to the other one and says, "Who's the guy in the pointy hat up there with Bubba?" I know everybody. I don't seek out celebrities to befriend them, and I've got quite a few celebrity friends on my friends list on Facebook. You can find them if you go through there. They're actual genuine friends. How do I know a lot of these guys? Well, part of it was when I worked at Oklahoma City Police Department, I was assigned as a bodyguard to some of them. The reason Chief Wilder did that was because I wasn't awestruck by someone just because they're famous. Just wasn't. They never really impressed me that much. And other folks, I really do have the background I say I've got as far as education. I really do have the background I say I've got as far as knowing folks in the intel community. It's just something that happened. I grew up basically poor in Chickasha, Oklahoma. But in Chickasha, Oklahoma, due to what my mother did for a living, she didn't own it, she worked at a nightclub called the Go Key Club, and a lot of celebrities came through there, a bunch, playing it, guys that were in music. A lot of them were black. I'm going to tell you right now, a lot of them were black. I've actually sat down on guitar with the Platters, the Spinners, and a few more guys. Roberta Flack's a friend of mine. She did not grow up in Chickasha, Oklahoma, but her uncle Robert Flack had a paint and body shop on the bad side of town. And even though I had a lot of violence happen to me at the hands of black folks, back then, this is in the early and late mid-60s in Chickasha, America, I still went over to Flack's body shop. Her uncle bought her a piano and set it in one of the side rooms. And I would take my guitar and amp, strap them down on the back of my motorcycle, and I went over there and we'd sit down and we'd jam. That's telling my age a little bit, but I knew Roberta before she was ever famous, and I think she's a lovely person, exceptional musician, exceptional singer, and that's really and truly the truth. Other people I met: Henry John Duchendorf. John Denver grew up in Duncan, Oklahoma. He ran away from home one summer and showed up at my mother's club, and that's where I met him. He borrowed a 12-string guitar from me. My brother Chris is a much better guitarist than I am in most ways. My left hand, and I'm left-handed, I have real problems with it. It's real arthritic, very painful. My brother Chris is a jeweler. His hands are the same way. But at that time I had a 12-string. I don't even remember what brand it was, where I got it from, but just a second. I'm a pretty good, or was a pretty good blues guitarist. Absolutely. Make that guitar sing. I probably still could briefly, but I've got all these guitars in here and I haven't picked one up in months. I've got my favorite one my brother Chris gave me. It's a very cheap one. It's an Esteban or whatever, Wildwood, or it's a classical guitar, has a broken G string on it. I've got sets of guitar strings in storage. I need to get one out and restring it. Maybe I'll do that today. I don't know. But getting back to the subject matter on John Denver, Henry John Deutschendorf, I used to play with that kid when he was really young. And later on, he took my 12-string, borrowed it, never brought it back. And years later, we were living at 2150 West Brooks, Apartment C. Had an old two-door Lincoln Blue. I was working up at OCPD, and I get a phone call from a friend of mine in the middle of the night that John Denver's at the Blue Onion Club. Now, if my brother Michael is watching this, you can ask your mom. She'll remember the Blue Onion Club. I went over there, and there's John Denver, and he's got my 12-string. And we touched base and got talking about stuff and found out the boy was starving. He flew his plane in, he was fueling, and all he had was a fuel card with him. He didn't have any money. So I gave him 20 bucks, and then on top of that, I took him to some, like a Waffle House or something that was open all night. This was at 2 o'clock in the morning. The Blue Onion Club had to shut down, so we went and we talked. Found out that he was married to a gal named Danny, and he, anyway, we just caught up. I got his phone number. I told him, just go ahead and keep the 12-string. I don't need it anyway. He gave me a hug. I drove him. He had taken a taxi to the Blue Onion Club, and then I gave him a ride back to North Base, where in North Norman. There used to be a place we called Bullet Hill up there. North Base is what it was called because it was an airfield for the Air Force, I guess. They had this hill they practiced shooting. It was a gun range. But anyway, took him up there, dropped him off, he flew off. And this is a little bit of my history, and this will be a little bit longer video today. But anyway, years later, I live in a town called Dougherty, Oklahoma, D-O-U-G-H-E-R-T-Y. I was still working for the government clandestinely, in a clandestine manner, but also painting signs, and I was doing analysis for them. And I had an office in the back of this building we built called the bunkhouse. And the front part I painted signs in to make extra money. On one side we had a deal, and then later we expanded it. But long story short on all that, I get a phone call. I'm out there in my office 10:30 at night, and it's John, Henry John Deutschendorf, and we're sitting there talking, and I can tell he's drunk. His wife had left him. He was depressed. He was thinking about committing suicide, and I thought I'd talked him out of it. We were on the phone 4 hours, and evidently, just like I'm getting sips of coffee, he was taking sips out of a bottle. I don't know what the boy was drinking, but a week later I learned that he had died in a flying accident. He had lost his pilot's license, and it was an experimental aircraft. Now let me tell you about the guy. He could fly. It was no accident. He committed suicide, and I bawled like a baby. I'm still tearing up now a little bit. There's some of the famous folks I've known since I was very young. And that is kind of how things happen. You just end up meeting people. Things happen in your life. And that brings me to another point that somebody else raised. Oh, you go on about your old van. So before I walked in here, let me get my phone. I don't know if this will show up or not. That is my old van. It's a 1990 GMC Vandura. It's a 3/4 ton, very heavy, and extremely powerful. It would pull this building if it were on wheels. Does not get any kind of gas mileage whatsoever. I am serious as a heart attack. The fuel mileage it gets is phenomenally bad. But I'm going to give a little tip on something. I painted the wheels on that because they were rusted and ugly. Now they look nice. But you take something that you have and you make it better. I found this old hammer in the room next door. The head on it was all rusted up. I sanded it down and repainted it. Michael Paul, I bought this hammer when I was living in Norman, Oklahoma decades ago. They had a hardware store down there on Main Street, and I went in and I bought it. I think I paid at that time like $7 plus tax for it. Right now, the same hammer, if you could find it, it's a framing hammer with a fiberglass handle. Why fix up an old hammer? I've got plenty more laying around. They're all better and newer. This one kind of appeals to me. I like it. You know, and for those of you that worry about absolutely not being able to afford a weapon, if you go buy a hammer and it's got the straighter nail bar on it right here, rather than one that bends down real hard, there are so many things you can do. You can use this as a weapon by hitting people. If you use that end to hit them, you can kill them. You can also grab it like this, guard your forearm, and stab and punch with it. I'm not advocating violence, folks. I've been accused of that. And one more letter I got, message, from someone I've known a long time. Seems like all my old friends are, and this individual didn't unfriend me, I don't think. I haven't checked. Contacted me, texted me on my phone. I don't know how he got my phone number. Then gave me a private message in Facebook and told me I'm heartless. What he wanted is he wanted me to give him some money because he's broke and he's close to being homeless. I don't have a lot of money. I'm sorry if I gave the impression I do. I don't. I'm not broke. Everything we have is paid for. But guess what? If we can't do with, we do without. My whole family's that way. You don't go spend money you don't have. And this is somebody that lives close enough. I see him once in a while. The other thing that I'm not going to call him out, and he'll watch this video and know that I'm talking to him. Let me show you something. I just did it with my van picture. This is an Android. It's a cheap phone. I went to I've been a U.S. Cellular customer for a long time. I went to the office over at Sulphur, Oklahoma, talked to the sweet little gal in there. I got that phone. It does everything an iPhone does, everything. But this one cost $21, not $2,100. $21 cost me $40 a month to keep it going. On the plan I've got with U.S. Cellular, I can Zoom message, I can do everything his expensive iPhone does, and it cost me a pittance of the amount of money he paid for his. I think his phone's like a $1,500 phone. I don't know what it costs a month. But you're sitting there, you're wearing $200 Nikes because you just got to have the latest. You're using a $1,000 phone and driving a car you cannot afford the payments on. Oh, it's nice, looks nice. And you're in an expensive apartment. I'm not saying where here in Oklahoma he lives, but he lives in an upper end apartment complex. It's not in Murray County, I will say that. And he's sitting there berating me and giving me a hard time because I won't send him money. Evidently he's begging everybody he knows for money so he can keep his lifestyle up. He does work at a fast food restaurant. He's not in management. I've never been a fan of Bill Clinton's, but he made a statement one time, and I'm living proof of it. The more you learn, the more you earn. I did not scold him. I just told him basically the same thing I've told you, my viewers. Now, if you are watching this and you're not a subscriber, please hit that red button down there. I'm trying to build up an audience base, and it's not about money, I promise. But with 15 subscribers, the odds of my message getting out are very slim. And as always, oh, by the way, got my Pawpaw hat on. But this is Pawpaw admonishing everyone watching, please be kind.